Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a great crowd. I'm glad to see you all here. My name is Julie Kim. I'm a career coach with the Career Development Center on the second floor of the Student Center. Hope you can come and join us. Today, we're excited to bring you our Arts, Fashion, and Media career panel. And we know we have an amazing art culture and art division here at Johnson County Community College. And we wanted to make sure that we provide you with resources and ideas when it comes to ideas about your career and where you can head from here. And so we're excited to have this amazing panel in front of you to share with us their journey and more about how to get into the field. All right. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to have them go down the line and share a little bit about themselves, introduce themselves, your general career, your creative role, and what does a typical day in your world look like. It could be anything, all right?
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Pamela Lucas from the House of Pamela Renee. That's the business that I have, and I also teach here, love it, here for the pattern making department. I have the House of Pamela Renee, so we do alterations, we do custom work, and I have a lot of interns that come from JCC to my business where they get real world. I'm like, are you sure you want to come and intern with me? Because we have to fit people, we have to, engage with other people. We also do Kansas City Fashion Week, so it's a lot of things that we do. So that's how my typical day runs. Fittings, alterations, sewing custom designs, meeting models, and so on and so forth, and teaching. So mainly for fashion, my area is fashion design. So we create the designs from sketch to the consumer. That's what we do. All righty.
Good afternoon. My name is Marlo DeMarc, and I am a counterpart of Pamela. She's in the design department. I'm in the merchandising department, so my specialty is within the business development, buying, sourcing, wholesale, retail of fashion merchandising. So I bring more of the business side to the table and less of the design to the table. When I'm teaching classes, I'm on the merchandising side. My career, spans right now at about 38 years, but who's counting? And I have spent the majority of my career in luxury buying. So I know a lot of students that come in are very interested in the buying field and fashion. And so I absolutely love being able to impart the knowledge that I have received throughout my years and my experience in the buying field. And I do on a basic day in the life of a buyer, basically it's math. You're coming in, there are some glamorous parts of it, yes, going to appointments with Prada and Gucci and Bottega and, Chanel and those type of lines was a dream come true for me. Going to fashion shows also a dream. But then when you really get into the nitty gritty, the pieces of the puzzle that make the business run and work for me and for buyers and on the merchandising side is really the math and the wholesale, retail, how can you make the money for the store that you're working at, your target customer, and those factors. So there are some glamorous parts of buying, but then there's also a lot of just keeping on top of your daily numbers, and that's what a day in the life for me, in addition to a lot of travel, but that's how my life progressed as a buyer.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ludwig, and I have had all of the jobs. I have run my own business for about 25 years. I have taught both at the Art Institute and here at JCCC. I have worked for a small agency. I've worked for medium-sized agencies. I've worked for global agencies. I have done hiring, and unfortunately, when too many companies got merged into one, I had to do some of the non-hirings, which was awful. So now I'm back to running my own show and loving it, swearing every day I'm not gonna do corporate, and then someone calls me up and says, hey, can you do this? I'm like, sure, that sounds fun. So I also am a photographer for fun. I have a couple of shows going on. One's gonna be in May, and another one's happening right now, and it's really I'm loving it. I absolutely adore design. I like everything about it. I like helping people get jobs doing it. Like people, I mean, everything about it just makes me happy. I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. So, yeah, there you go. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Misha Kligman. I'm an artist and I chair fine arts program at our school. I teach painting and drawing here. I've been at this since early 2000s, making and exhibiting work. My studio is in Kansas City, Missouri. Besides that, I've co-run several galleries, currently running one, and started and ran a gallery in Kansas City here for a number of years prior to this one. So I guess I have interest in curatorial work as well as just making art, but primarily I'm an artist.
Hello. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
you're good.
My name's Ian Spaeth. I am, unlike the other 4 people here, I do not teach here at JCCC. I do have a history in teaching at the Kansas City Art Institute. So yeah, I went to KCAI for graphic design with a sort of emphasis on interactive design, and then I found myself moving into the world of museum exhibition design at a local design firm here in town called Eisterhold Associates. I was there for about 6 years, and then I found my way to Dimensional Innovations, where I am still at. I'm a creative director nowadays, and so there's still plenty of designing specifically around graphic design, but it's also a lot of working with my colleagues and helping guide them to figure out what our designs and our solutions should look like. So it's a lot of collaboration, a lot of trying to teach through like guiding, and yeah, trying to figure out what it is that our clients are looking for. So yeah, a background in graphic design, and I still get to do a lot of that nowadays. Yeah, but I still get to create sometimes. Yeah.
Nigel, could you also tell us a little bit more about Dimensional Innovations? Just what do they do? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm Nigel Morley. I work at Dimensional Innovations. I've been there about 6 years. Dimensional Innovations is about creating experiences, basically. So whether that's the experience of being in a stadium and seeing the wayfinding or imagery or artifacts that help you enjoy your experience at the stadium, whether it's museum exhibits or graphic panels, interpretive panels that tell you about articles in the museum. If it's a state capitol where you've got signage and wayfinding or exhibit elements in there. The torch in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, we designed and built on our 3D printer in Kansas City. The books at on the parking garage outside the downtown library, we did those. So anything that kind of creates brand expression within a public environment is what we're involved in. What I do day to day. My history: I started in publication design, moved into advertising, and then into brand design. I've worked on local and international logo development and brands and identity. Then I joined Dimensional Innovations about 6 years ago, like I said. Currently, I work in the cultural group. So right now, I'm working on as 2 zoos, a parks project, a state capitol. That's what's in my to-do list today. Typical day, like today, I've had like 3 meetings, 4 I guess now. I've done some worked with a designer on developing some VisVocab for a project. Worked with another designer on we're working on the Predator's Ridge project at Denver Zoo and trying to figure out how to talk about cats to people. So working on developing signage and interpretive visuals for that experience. And then I sat on a panel for students thinking about a career in this silly world.
Oh, Okay,
Is
hang
that
on to,
okay?
yeah, that
All
sounds
right.
great. Hang on to that mic. So we're going to go down the line back the other way. And if you can all share with us, how did you make that decision to take your interest in the arts, fashion, and media and turn it into an actual career?
Okay, I've got an odd path. I went to school to be a pastor. I have a degree in philosophy and theology from a small private school in San Diego. I always loved art. I always loved design, but it didn't seem like was my future. I took one design course in college and got a D. So things are looking up, right? Came to Kansas City to go to seminary to get a master's degree in theology. And there were things I didn't believe anymore. To pay my way through seminary, I got a job. I don't know how in the world I got this job as a production assistant in a publishing firm. And I got to work with two amazing artists. I'll tell you their names. Roland Miller, who was a phenomenal illustrator and knew how to use color like you wouldn't believe. His treatment of line and descriptive storytelling through visuals was phenomenal. So I watched and learned from him. Itzhak Abundis was a typographer's dream. He was fabulous. He understood how to work with type, how to do layouts, and I learned from him. And I was young enough to figure out computers, so I helped them move from the flat world of layers of the way that we used to do publishing in those days to doing it in Adobe's backyard. So I helped them move to that, and in payment for that, they taught me all about their love and passion for design. So that's how I got and fell in love with that art. Realized I wasn't gonna be a pastor like Dad and my brother, that I was gonna be something in design, and kept pursuing that. I liked storytelling. Religion is evangelism. Evangelism is marketing. Marketing is advertising. So I got into advertising. There's a random connection there somewhere in my brain, maybe. So I did that, and I loved the idea of communication arts, of taking someone's passion, someone's story, and communicating it to other people. There's people that spend all day working on something, attaching a widget to a thing, and it's what they do, and that's important to them. But nobody gets to tell the story about the passion that they have for that thing that they create, and that's the role of an advertising or a designer. And to have that ability to voice the beauty or meaning of that project to people beyond their reach was magical and meaningful to me. And now I get to do that for zoos and museums and other places like that. That kind of covers it, right?
I feel like my journey probably starts like when I was a little kid, and I loved the relationship that I had with my grandma. We would my siblings and I, we would each have an afternoon with our grandparents after school. Like they would pick us up and we would do some sort of art project with our grandma, and our grandpa would be making homemade applesauce and things. And so it was something that I loved from a little age, of just being able to have a little creative outlet. Also growing up, I went to a lot of museums, and as a kid I was really not into it, but every summer we would have a family vacation and we would go somewhere, and it would always end up having some sort of history museum or a national park with exhibits and things there. And those two things were just sort of simmering in the back of my brain as I got older. And in high school, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do post high school, and it was either between pharmacy school or art school, and I managed to get into the Kansas City Art Institute, and I was like, well, I'm gonna say no to pharmacy school. We're gonna try doing something a bit more creative. I mean, it really was, to me, it was ideally it was gonna be something creative. If not, I felt like I kind of weirdly was good in chemistry. So I was like, okay, I mean, I know there's a lot of money in that, but it didn't really sound didn't really sound like what I really wanted to do. So I went to the Art Institute, and it was when I got to the Art Institute, it was between like photography and graphic design. And in the first year, sort of learning about the different departments, it seemed like the design department was maybe a little stronger, or it spoke to me a little bit more than photography. So I ended up going into the graphic design department, and I realized really quickly that I liked it. Like, I liked being creative, but I didn't necessarily feel like as an artist. So at the Art Institute, you have like the School of Fine Arts and the School of Design, and art and design are really similar. Like, they're fundamentally the same, but they're also fundamentally different. Like, as an artist, you like, both as an artist and a designer, you're trying to figure out how to communicate something. And as an artist, it's usually something that's inside yourself. It's something that you're thinking about. But as a designer, as like a graphic designer, it's all about helping other people communicate something that they want communicated out into the world. And so, like, it's kind of one and the same, even though it's either internal or external. And there was something that I really liked about sort of like getting to understand other subject matters and topics to figure out how to communicate those things. The Art Institute, when I was going through there, had a strong emphasis on function over form, or function informed by the, what am I trying to say? That it's like function over form. And so, like, looking to, yes, you can, we were taught the basics of color and typography and visual communications and things like that. But then we had to dive really deep into learning about our subject matter and getting to understand it and learning the ins and outs and figuring out what these subject matters look like and how you can visualize something that's kind of already out there in the world. And I found that really interesting. And I was focusing on interactive design. I was like, I'm gonna move to the West Coast and I'm gonna like do something cool with like an app or something. And I was like job hunting, and it wasn't really going anywhere. And the designer, like the senior designer at Eisterhold, found me in my LinkedIn and invited me to come work part-time at a museum design firm. And I realized all of those museums and national park centers that I went to kind of paid off. It was something that I was like really interested in. I had interned at like at VML and Propaganda 3, and I sort of had that world. And once I got into the world of museum design and telling other people's stories, I thought there was something really beautiful and powerful about that. And sort of, yeah.
Plug for LinkedIn in there. Did you guys catch it? That someone found him on LinkedIn. By the way, we can help you create your LinkedIn. There's a great photo booth back there. But I love that your story was written on LinkedIn and they connected with it. So thank you. Yeah.
I guess I tell people that art chooses you. You don't really choose art. And if it chose you, you're stuck with it and you're now dealing with it in a sense. I think only crazy people choose art. There is no way to choose art. I just cannot imagine what that would look like. My family is very pragmatic. They're doctors and PhDs and scientists, and they put me in an art school at the age of 10, and sort of that, I liked it. I've been doing it since. I think when I was 19, I had a painting professor. I studied both design, interestingly, and I have both design background and art background in school. And but our painting professor, when I was 19, took us to his studio, which was in a super crusty, old industrial building in a part of Cleveland. And once I saw that studio, I was like, this is what I want. I want that life. I want that studio. This is what I want to do. So as soon as I got out of school with my little design background at that point, early 2000s, I got a job as a designer, working actually for a commercial photographer. So I have both photography and design background. Only to then immediately go in with my money, rent my first crusty studio. So I would go work during the day for doing design work, and at night and on the weekend, whenever I had time, I would go in the studio and paint. And that's when I began to exhibit work. And you know, eventually I realized that all the designers I knew were so much better at it than me and had real commitment to the design. I mean, they drove design cars, they dressed design, you know. They had cool design glasses. They knew a lot about design furniture. You went to their house, it was a design house. You know, it was their life. And I just did not have that commitment to design. And I realized I just plateaued, you know. I was okay, I could make a little bit of a living. But then it wasn't enough to, like, I did not want to dedicate my life to it. So I made a decision, went to grad school for painting, and you know, since then I've been just exhibiting and making work. Yeah, and piecing together life. I think a life of an artist is life that is pieced together from many different components, and there isn't like a clear path, there isn't a job somebody gives you. I don't like working for people. I don't like telling other people's ideas through my own thing. You know, so whatever that means, but you know, I'm working here. I do like people, thankfully, so I like teaching, and I think if you want to teach, that's definitely something you should do. You should like people first. Ask yourself, do I like people? If you like people, you maybe consider teaching. If you don't like people, do not teach. But I like doing that work. I think it's very fulfilling work, but I still, you know, I'm painting, I'm exhibiting, and all of those things you learn along the way, like design, photography, all of those skills, they're great skills, and I keep them to this day. I use them in my daily life and my work life, in the life of either being an artist or running a gallery. It's all useful stuff, so I'm glad I have those skills.
I think my story starts much like everybody else's. My parents did not think it was a good idea for me to go into art. In fact, I was taking a couple of design classes up at KU, and my professor asked me if I was going to be taking the next semester class with her. I was like, oh, no, I've run out of electives. She goes, what do you mean electives? I'm like, well, my parents. She's like, oh, you're going to school for your parents. And she turned around and walked away, and that just totally freaked me out. I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, sorry, I swear. Okay, so I called my dad, said, hey, I'm going to switch over to the fine arts department, or into graphic design, and he was like, no daughter of mine is going to do underwater basket weaving. Do whatever you think you can afford, and literally cut me off at that moment. Well, I had no idea what I could afford, so I just followed what my heart was, and it was design. I didn't know there was a career in graphic design. I just thought, you know, when I was in high school and junior high, I made posters. Did some yearbook stuff. I didn't know it was really a thing, and it just kind of found me. I couldn't stop, and I still can't stop designing. If someone hands me a spreadsheet, I have to redesign it first before I can look at it, because, oh my God, this is horrible. The type, the margins, the padding is just awful. So I have to fix it, and then I can look at it and do the business side of things. Yeah, it takes me a little while to get that done. So again, there's no part of my life that isn't something to do with design. When I'm having fun, there's some component of design. I have an obsession with road trips. And so I started documenting and kept like this database because I'm really geeky. And then next thing you know, I am literally standing in line for the first iPhone because I am a geek. And there was a guy named Cello Vergara standing right in front of me. I look at Ian because he worked with Cello. And we got to talking, and he was in line because he had developers, because he had websites and stuff, he wanted them to learn how to develop apps. I was standing in line because I had this database that was just sitting there on my computer that I wanted to put into an app about travel. But I needed a phone to understand exactly what an app was. Well, guess what happened? By the time I got to the end of the line, got my phone, Cello was getting his phone, and we started working together. I gave him, worked with him the database. I got to do the UX design, like how it should work, and his team developed the product. I learned the most important thing ever in design is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. I have a tendency to bloat things. And so I always had to go back. The main thing is this. I have to keep that the main thing. And that, I think, is probably one of the best rules I've ever had in my life, is to always come back to what is the core reason that I am making something, you know. And usually for clients, it's like their audience. It's not so much the client, but what does the people that the client is helping want to hear? What do they want to know? And how can, sometimes they have to help the client see that you really want to talk to the audience first and not tell them things, but hear what they have to say and then give them the answers to those kinds of things. I find the problem solving part of design just to be really, really fun. And again, I just don't have any other choice but to be a designer. There's really nothing else I can do, I don't think. I mean, I'm not even good at keeping the house clean, so I'm really SOL. So, yeah, that's it. So.
Thank you. Much like my fellow panelists, I had no idea that there was a career in buying, in fashion buying. I always thought you had to be a designer, and that was really the end of it. But in high school, I was always the head of the costume department for a theater department. And what I really noticed that I enjoyed personally was picking out the garments and the things that were going to be put on other people, which wasn't necessarily a design concept. So I wasn't feeling that I wanted to be a designer, even though I thought at the time that was the only path. When I was at UMKC, I started in the theater department, costume design, and thinking that I could be doing similar to what I had done in high school. But then I worked on the plaza it was a higher end shoe boutique called Timothy's, and worked there for 7 years. And while I was there, I saw vendors coming in, talking to one of our owners, and she would do buys, and she would invite me to join her in picking merchandise. And I said, well, what is this? This is something that I love, and I think I'm good at it. And understanding your customer, your demographic, once I realized that was actually a career path for me, that was it, and I was hooked. So from that point, immediately upon graduation, I became a buyer for Timothy's. We had 15 stores, and then soon after that moved to Halls, and I was there for, again, over 15 years, Halls and Hallmark as a buyer. Again, not even knowing when I was 16, 17 that was a career path, and not having any, at the time, again, not a lot of educational opportunities to understand the math. So for me, it was a lot of learning on the job, and that's why I enjoy teaching so much, because I can help the next generation of fashionistas and merchandisers understand and know all the different career paths that are available, which I've been a part of so many in addition to buying, but that became my true passion, and then off to the races, and I loved it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So in the beginning, I was in junior high, and I took a home ec class. So that's how I started with sewing. And one year, I have an older sister, she's 2 years older. One year, I got a sewing machine for Christmas, and she got this suede coat with the fur collar, and I'm so jealous and mad and blah, 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 blah. But I took that sewing machine, and it turned into my career. All right, so I learned through high school, and then there used to be a place called Penn Valley Community College. I went there. All right, so while I'm at Penn Valley Community College, the teacher, she liked me. I don't care about being a teacher's pet. Everybody should be a teacher's pet. But anyhow, she referred me to Swanson's on the Plaza. That's where I learned how to do my alterations. And back then, we couldn't wear jeans. We couldn't even wear pants. We had to do all our hems and fittings and high heel shoes and pantyhose. So now, back then, I keep saying back then because I'm in the Medicare group. Anyway, back then, there were really no computers. So I used to write letters. I'd write letters to Vogue. Yes, dear Vogue, my name is Pamela Lucas. I want to be a fashion designer, all over the place. And I got a call back. And this lady says to me, "Okay, child, if you're there, if you really want to do fashion, you need to go to the East Coast or the West Coast. Okay, you just got to make up your mind." So since I was born in New York, I went back. So I went to New York and I went to FIT. Now, remember, I had already graduated with my associates from Penn Valley Community College. I thought I was I won't say that word you said, but I thought it was and I knew everything. But then I get up there and I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't know that. Because the thing about it is, we don't know what we don't know. So we think we know it all. So I was up there, did design, and I did pattern making. And my first big time job, back then, I was getting $700 a week back in 1980 something. Anyway, it was with Albert Nippon. So I worked with Albert Nippon, and I learned a lot of things. And then I moved back to Kansas City because my daughter, who was very young, she wanted to get on a subway by herself. I'm like, "You're 3, you're not going to do that." So she was a little bit older than that. So when I came back, I always kept in touch with my teachers because that's a good thing to do. Because that can be like a lifeline. And she said, "There's a job opening at Lee Jeans." I'm like, "Oh, Lee Jeans." Okay, so I went and applied. And I remember, okay, I'll keep it short. I remember the guy who interviewed me, he was kind of a country guy. He laid back in his chair and he had his feet up. He had cowboy boots on and a hat. And he says, "Tell me about you. What can you do? What can you do?" I showed him my resume and all that type of stuff, and I got hired. I was so happy. Okay, then I became the first African-American fashion designer at Lee Jeans. So, yes. It was so funny when that happened because I'm in my own little cubby. All of a sudden, everybody comes around. Pam, you got the job? Yes, I did. Pam, I said, I got to get to work. Pam, you got the. So as that went on, and you can kind of read in the bio what's going on, but the shift came. So from my fashion design degree, fashion design career, I would make wedding gowns. Because when I was making stuff for people, they come if they wanted to come. You make something for somebody, you charge them. Sometimes they go, "Oh, you know what? I'm not going there anymore, so I'm not going to do that. So I started making wedding gowns because they're going to come for that wedding dress. So, or the mother bride's going to come, or the guy's going to come for his suit. So, and alterations, a lot of designers, they don't want to do alterations, but let me tell you about alterations. Alterations teaches you, not only that, it's your bread and butter money. You know how much money you can, but sometimes alterations cost more than an outfit. So that's what I was doing, and everything was good. The shift came when COVID happened. So when COVID happened, I was a director of curriculum instruction at Rightfully So. When COVID happened, a lot of people weren't going anywhere. So what do? You're a fashion designer, you're an entrepreneur, what do you do? So I switched to teaching. So so that's when the main thing started happening, and I did a lot of things online. So now COVID's done. I'm still here with Joy Rhodes from, Johnson County Community College in the fashion design department, and I have my own business and my own academy where I teach people, and I also do fashion design. So, and I retired from the Kansas City, Missouri School District. So yeah, whew. I got, it says 30 plus years, but it's a little bit more than that. I was just trying to be kind to myself so people won't look at me. No, you're not 66. No, you're not. They didn't have computers when I went to school. They had the typewriter with the ball. So, so your passion can be your passion. Your passion can be your passion. So that's my story.
Well, thank you. All right, we're going to do a short sentence answer for this next question. But what is one skill or quality do you think that would make someone successful in your field? What is one skill or quality? You ready to go, Kelly? Yeah.
Curiosity. That's it. I mean, you have to be curious. You have to push beyond.
I would say for buying, good taste and math skills, which again, I would have known math. but good taste also.
I would say for design, because what type of designer are you? Sewing. People always say, oh no, I don't want to sew, da 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 da. So you got the designers who can sew, and you got the designers who can't sew. And I'm on the team for the designers who can sew. Maybe as you get bigger, you don't have to sew your stuff, but at least you have to know how to put it together.
I don't know if this is a skill, but it's an attitude, I think, towards your work, and that is don't fall in love with anything you do. Like you should be able to destroy anything you make, because tomorrow you can make it. You can make something better. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it.
I second that one. I was going to say communication about who you are and your thoughts, but also, communication to other people and their ideas.
The thing that stands out to me in reviewing portfolios and interviewing people is craft. They may have great ideas. They may have beautiful palettes, but sometimes the craft, the finish is not there. That polish is critical. So craft would be one of the things.
Okay, thank you. The next question is going to just be about networking. You each shared your story, and there's different points and contexts along the way that were really key. Can you help share with young budding artists and students any tips or ideas about networking? Mm-hmm.
We going this way, that way? What we doing?
Sure, if you're ready to go.
Okay, so networking is important. I used to be not wanting to do networking. All I wanted to do was sew, design, pick out fabrics that fit people, never wanted to network. But if you want people to know about you, you have to network. So I'm learning now the social media and things like that. Back in my day, it was just you call somebody on the phone. You know, that type of thing. You met somebody at a party or something like that. But now you have so many choices, young folks. You got the social media. And look how many social media, and TikTok and all that type of stuff. So definitely networking. And then you get together with like-minded people and go to a networking event. And some people always say, oh, I don't know how to network. They go there. I've seen it. They just sit. Because they're not that outgoing. They just sit. So, and that used to be me. So I just started saying, hello, my name is Pamela Lucas. How are you? What are you here for? And if they didn't want to talk to me, they'd walk away and be like, okay, hello, my name is Pamela Lucas. So you have to learn. If you don't know how to network, you have to learn. Open your mouth. As they say, I don't know if you would like this, but closed mouth don't get fed, because that comes from the church. But
I definitely agree that networking is very important, and there's so many avenues with different types of clubs, Fashion Group International for our, what we do. But there's also, for me, I felt like the best networking I did was internally in corporations that I worked inside, which you don't think of networking. You think of always going outside. But I did a lot of networking inside to let my managers, people that I worked with in different areas of the company, to let them know where I wanted to go, so that I wasn't taking a back seat to my career, that I was putting it out there and letting them know that I wanted to be a buyer, I wanted to be a merchandise manager, I wanted to move to this next spot. So I think you can definitely network outwardly and meet like-minded people, and that's extremely important. But I also would like to emphasize networking internally in places that you see yourself for the long term.
I have a million ideas about networking. One, yes, obviously LinkedIn. Follow your professors, because they are connected. And you can see, like, when you go to interview with somebody, if, like, maybe I or somebody knows the person you're interviewing with, and you can talk to them, or you can drop their name. Super easy. Don't have to really put yourself out there. I know that there's, like, for creatives, there's basically, we're more introverted. I know it doesn't seem like I am, but I am. I would rather work by myself all the time, but that does not help me one iota. I think that is probably one of the strongest things. Join an organization. Like in my case, there's AIGA. You don't have to do really that much to be a part of on the board. If you just go there and sit there and be the person that signs people into an event, People are going to see you. They're going to recognize your face eventually. You're going to know their names. Cool. You've got to step in. You didn't have to even really talk yet. So then you're going to start feeling a little bit more comfortable. I have also found going to places that have like organizations that have things I'm just interested in. Maybe it's an entrepreneurial thing. Well, it's not about design, but guess what? Every person in there starting up their own business, they're going to need me eventually. So just kind of think outside the box where you're not like one of 100 fish in the same bowl. You can go be the unique fish in another person's bowl. So there's all sorts of ways you can do this. The buddy system is really good, but you have to promise yourself when you get to the event, you have to split up, because you'll end up talking to each other the entire time and never meet anybody. So you make it a game. He's like, okay, whoever gets the first 3 business cards, the other person has to buy the next round of drinks. You make it a sport, because it's going to get you out of your skin. And also, because you're students right now, find somebody or some company that you are just fascinated with. It does not matter where they are in the world. Just find out who's working there, a position's there. Send them an email and just say, I am a student. I would love to do an informational interview. I just would like to know, how did you get started? I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z. Know a little bit about them, because everybody likes hearing somebody talking about them. So let them know that you've done your research. Like, oh, I thought this project was so awesome. Can you tell me how you came up with this idea? And then people are just like, oh, they can't stop talking. So, but then they're going to know you. Now you've created a relationship. And maybe they don't have a job today, but maybe they know that a friend of theirs, they just picked up a new client and they're going to be hiring soon. And they're like, hey, I just talked to this person. They're really interesting. They're graduating from JUCO. You should really talk to them. You can do it without having to go around and just be like, hi, I'm Kelly. That just freaks me out. I just don't like doing it. I don't want to pick up the phone to call people. But there's other ways you can meet people and network with them. And I think you have such an advantage of being a student right now, because you can just I just want to hear what you do. And they will love you. They will think you are like the coolest person because you're talking about them. So definitely do that.
I would say one thing about networking, which is the word I hate, but don't be forced. You cannot be forced when you network, because it comes out so unnatural and fake. Nobody will trust you. And so you have to actually enjoy the part that is the networking, which is talking probably, right? But I think the point to network is to get some kind of opportunity, or to be thought about when an opportunity comes up. I'm just thinking about it in relationship to the artists. My wife once gave me this super amazing advice. I'm trying to remember it now, but if you want, what did she say? She said, if you want advice, ask for money. So if you ask somebody for money, right, they won't give you money, but they'll give you advice. But if you want money, ask for advice, right? So you can turn that and ask, if you want an opportunity, ask for advice. But if you want an opportunity, don't ask for it, because people will just tell you how to go about it. Yeah. You got it.
I agree with what everybody said. I think it's networking, it's connections, and it's persistence. So networking with new people, but also networking with people who you already know, and staying in touch with them, staying in touch with your teachers, staying in touch with your classmates, with your old colleagues. I got my foot into DI to meet people because I worked with somebody at Iserhold who moved on to DI, and they were able to put in a good word for me and was able to make those connections. And so it's that. And then also when I was in design school, I was trying to get a job, and I thought I was going in for a second interview for the role, and I realized it was another first round interview, and I was annoyed. And so I went home, and because I was studying graphic design, I typed up a little thank you letter, and I made it look all pretty, and it was for Urban Outfitters. So I was like, let's make it all hipster and interesting. And I printed it out, and I went back and I handed it to the supervisor, or the manager, and she handed it to somebody else, and I was given the job right then and there. So persistence is great.
Yeah, I was going to say persistence as well. I'm a terrible networker. I mean, I'm terrible. I don't know how the hell I've moved from one thing to another. I know at one point I wanted to work at a place called Blacktop Creative. And 4 years before that, I realized who they were and the work they did. So I started to work on portfolio elements that seemed in their niche. And started to meet people from there just randomly at events like AIGA events or Ad Club events and just chat with them about what they did. And I think I went on 3 different interviews and I never frickin' got a job there. After 4 or 5 years, they called me and invited me along. But it was that persistence and trying to talk in their language. Like, one of you said that they want to know less about you and more about themselves. And if you reflect what they're passionate about and share that passion, there's more likely to create a connection there and a future together. Passion speaks to passion. So if you know what you love, I wanted to do the kind of work that Blacktop Creative did, and you find someone that does that, then you can have that passionate conversation and those connections build. That I don't know if that's true for everybody. That's what worked for me.
Our time goes real quick here. We are at the end of our panel time. Thank you.